Morris, thank you so much. Well, we've been following this breaking news all afternoon of a Metro police officer shot on the city's west side.
You see there a contingent of police officers, including Police Chief Chris Bailey, walking down the sidewalk there outside Eskenazi Hospital. They're heading over to the microphones there to give an update to reporters. First of all, we want to know more about how the officer is doing. We know he's stable and considered to have non-life-threatening injuries. We want to know about the suspect that was shot as well. One of the suspects also taken to a hospital. And then that third suspect who is in police custody. And we're hearing that there were more, individuals that the police are looking for. So once again, this is a live picture outside Eskenazi Hospital as Police Chief Chris Bailey, other investigators make their way to the podium to give an update on today's shooting.
Now, here's what we know so far and what we've been following all afternoon from our great reporters on scene, Cody Fisher and Kat Sandoval, who've been covering this. Happened around 2 o'clock this afternoon near 16th and Lafayette. Here we have IMPD Chief Chris Bailey and the other PIO there. We're going to listen live as they come to the podium to talk about the shooting happening this afternoon.
Wally, W-O-L-L-E-Y. I'm going to provide you just the preliminary information from our officer-involved shooting that occurred today. Just keep in mind that the information I'm about to read to you is subject to change as we further the investigation. On July 29th, 2025, shortly after 2 p.m., an IMPD officer began following a carjacked vehicle near the intersection of West 16th Street and North Harding Street after running a license plate check. The vehicle entered a nearby apartment complex, and at that point, the IMPD North District officer in fully marked car activated his emergency lights to stop the vehicle. The carjacked vehicle pulled into a parking spot in the apartment complex located at 2100 Emmerich Lane. A total of 4 suspects were in the vehicle, and 1 male passenger immediately ran from the vehicle. At that moment, the officer attempted to take the driver into custody and had him seated on the ground. As this was happening, 2 additional passengers exited the vehicle. One of those passengers walked around to the front of the vehicle and began firing in the direction of the officer. The IMPD officer was struck by gunfire at least 3 times, and the officer returned fire, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. The IMPD officer then rendered aid to himself by applying a tourniquet. At least 2 community members ran to the officer following the shooting to assist. Additional officers responded to the scene. The injured officer was transported by another IMPD officer to an area hospital in stable condition. Officers also rendered aid to the suspect who was shot. A total of 3 suspects were taken into custody. Detectives believe that the shooter is in custody at the hospital. 1 suspect is still outstanding. Detectives located a firearm with an extended magazine in the parking lot of the complex, next to where the suspect who was shot was located. An additional firearm was found in the hallway of a nearby apartment, where 1 suspect was found. The Northwest District officer has been on the department for nearly 4 years. No uninvolved community members were injured during this incident. The Indianapolis Marion County Forensic Services Agency responded to identify and collect potential forensic evidence. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office responded to the scene to assist in the investigation. The IMPD Critical Incident Response Team came to the scene to conduct the criminal investigation. A separate administrative investigation is being conducted by Internal Affairs. The officer who fired their gun has been placed on administrative leave, as is standard procedure for any officer-involved shooting. The Civilian Majority Use of Force Board will conduct a mandatory hearing for any attempt use of deadly force against a person. This occurs after the conclusion of the criminal process. The Police Officer Support Team responded to provide peer support for officers. The IMPD Chaplain's Office responded to assist with those involved. The IMPD Victims Assistance Unit responded to assist officers and detectives. Anyone with information is asked to call Sergeant Brian Lambert at the Homicide Office by calling 317-327-3475. Alternatively, anyone with information can call Crime Stoppers anonymously at 317-262-TIPS. I'm now going to turn it over to Chief Bailey for comments, and he will be followed by FOP President Rick Snyder.
Today is one of the hardest days that any law enforcement agency can have when one of your officers is shot in the line of duty. doing exactly what we ask them to do every single day. Run toward the danger. And it's a stark reminder of the dangers they face every single day doing a job in selfless service of our community. And behind every single one of these badges is a human being who has family, who has friends, colleagues, and a heart for service. The attack that we saw today is a second attack on an IMPD officer in less than a week by a dangerous person, armed with a weapon and the intent to kill. It's unacceptable for it to happen from community member to community member, but when it happens against an officer, a peace officer, whose job it is to protect, our community has to be outraged by that. And these attacks are not just happening here in Indianapolis. Look around this country over the past 2 or 3 weeks at the number of law enforcement officers attacked while doing their job. So, for the individual that's still out, my suggestion to you is that you find the nearest church, pastor, or police station and turn yourself in right now. Our officers are not going to stop until they take you into custody, and you will be held accountable for your actions. I am thankful that our officer is alive today and able to speak with his family and his colleagues who have been rallying around him at the hospital today. I'm thankful that our mayor showed up here today to speak to the officer and the officers here from the Northwest District who go out every day and do their job. Their commander is here. I've had an opportunity to speak to the officer. He was in a lot of pain, disappointed that this happened to him, but even more committed than ever to come back as soon as possible and serve the people of this community. Rick?
Thanks, Chief. Here we are again. This is what we have been warning of and talking about for a long time now, which are the vicious number of attacks that continue to occur, not just on our community, but upon the officers that are serving this community. I know for a fact, talking to folks throughout the neighborhoods, that incidents like this not only anger them, and I think somebody needs to bring voice to what they feel. They're pissed off. They're sick and tired of the violence that's occurring in our community, and they want somebody to say something and do something about it. Folks throughout the neighborhoods know that the women and men of IMPD won't quit. They don't give up. They continue to suit up and show up every single day, in spite of the dangers, in spite of the risk, and quite frankly, in spite of a system that's cutting them off at the knees for everything that they're out here doing. They don't quit and they don't give up. And I think that's the salient message, not just to our community, but also to the evil ones who perpetrated this crime of violence here today. And that is what we keep saying throughout this department, which is not today. Evil did not win today. Evil will not win overall. And our officer is alive to tell about it. This officer is a wonderful officer. He is well known and respected by his peers for his solid police work. And he was out there faithfully doing what he's been asked to do, and quite frankly, what he raised his right hand and promised to do for this community. And he was doing it unwaveringly. I feel for his family, who are shocked, scared right now that this could happen. They know it's a possibility, but when it actually occurs, it becomes so much more real. So our officers, our fraternal order of police, we've wrapped our arms around his family, his fellow officers who are trying to process what has occurred here today. But I also want to thank our community. One of the things that the chief said is that, Chief Wally shared, is that this officer also self-applied medical first aid equipment upon himself. So I want to say right now to everyone in our Indianapolis community that's helped put those trauma kits together for us, that's helped assemble those and make those trauma kits possible, I want you to take heart. that this officer had critical life-saving equipment upon himself that he was able to apply and to help save his own life. And then he was surrounded by officers who have stellar training and were able to employ that training to load and go and get that officer here for medical care. Finally, I want to say this. I too am grateful that the mayor came and spent time with our officer. I'm also grateful that the mayor got to hear from our officers directly, who shared with the mayor that this is what they are up against every single day out here. They were able to share with the mayor that we do have a war zone that's going on in this city. But what they're also able to make clear is they are the warriors that are prepared to stand the line on behalf of this city. And they implored the mayor to make sure that no matter what, their stellar training does not get reduced in any way. We continue to provide that life-saving equipment for them, and that we all get around them and support them. The final thing is this, that was relayed to the mayor by our officers, is that they are out here fighting a battle that doesn't seem winnable when they keep seeing the same violent offenders time and time again. And they made clear that something has got to change in our city, and they made clear that starts with our criminal justice system. They were able to share that regardless of the criminal histories of these offenders, I'm not even sure what that is, but the mere fact that they thought it was going to be okay and somehow acceptable to violently attack a police officer tells you everything that you need to know. And what they said today is these violent offenders do not fear consequences or accountability in our system. Something has to change. So that's where our community comes in. We need you to rally around, continue to be that voice, and stand with us today on this officer survival to say not today. That's the salient message. Final point, we are averaging an officer shot in this nation that the chief spoke about, an officer shot in the line of duty on average once every 26 hours. We are still averaging an officer dying in the line of duty once every 52 hours. I am so grateful that that isn't the case here today. So continue to stand with our officers, pray for them, to the folks in the community that pray, not just speak it and say that they do, but actually pray for their safety and pray for this family and pray for full healing and restoration. Thank you.
All right, we'll take some questions.
Do you anticipate a full recovery, or is it any
Well, I mean, it's
surgery,
still too early to be determined about, there's still a lot of testing going on right now. We don't know if he'll be sent home tonight, and then further testing is going to have to happen. But there is some, concerns about where the bullets are and whether they could be removed now or later or if ever. So there's still a lot of testing has to be done, so that's unknown.
What are the ages of your suspects?
We'll put that out in a media release at sometime in the near future. There's still a lot of things going on right now. That's still an active scene over there, so we're still trying to confirm all that information. But they're young adults, I can tell you that.
The suspect that was shot, what's their condition?
Critical condition.
Was this officer, why was was this part of a detail, or was this just a standard plate run?
Just doing his job, looking for carjacked vehicles. In his conversation, the mayor, he talked about how there's been a group of people committing robberies on 38th Street. Commander Lewis, I'm sure, has a robust crime plan every single day that he employs to his officers that direct them into locations to try to prevent and stop crime from happening. And from everything I've been told, that this officer is one of those officers that goes out every day to do his job and to meet his mission.
Was this officer by himself when he was taking these suspects into custody, or were there other officers?
He was by himself at the time. Everything happened really quick. I've watched the body-worn camera footage and the in-car camera footage. I don't think anybody anticipated everything happening as fast as it did.
at any
Would you
point
describe it
lose
as an
consciousness,
ambush?
or was it because he was able to do the first aid himself, able to get?
He did not lose consciousness. He was able to communicate on the radio. And I also want to say there's a couple of civilians that walked up to our officer who yelled for help as he's laying there. We'd like to know who you are, and there are ways you can identify yourselves to us. If you would let us know, we'd like to make sure that we honor you for doing the right thing and running toward our officer to provide that aid.
Do you know how the suspects are related?
I don't.
Since
Chief,
you've seen
message
the
to
body,
officers who are going back on duty tonight after we had an officer shot
Yeah.
and attacked.
Thank you for your courage. You are up against it in a lot of ways. Staffing issues, event after event after event in this city. And you're doing a great job. You're driving down violent crime. This is a tough job. It's a dangerous job. But you come in every single day with the commitment that I appreciate, that you're willing to put yourself between bad things, bad people, and me and my family. And I appreciate you so much. And the community needs to appreciate you, and they need to hear it. Our officers need to hear it from the community of just how much they need support and want our officers to work in their communities.
Are there any ongoing efforts to track this suspect right now?
Yes, I mentioned that in my remarks. Officers, as we speak, are looking for this fourth suspect.
Should people be concerned about that?
So, to my knowledge, there's no threat by this individual to the community. He is on the run. This is the first person to flee from the car, from my understanding. And like I said, turn yourself in, find your pastor, find a church, find a police station, and turn yourself in.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you're just joining us here tonight.
Police Chief Chris Bailey there at the microphone.
You're watching Wish TV, Indiana's only statewide TV news network. This is breaking news.
And we start with that breaking news right here off the top at 6. An IMPD officer shot on the city's west side. Good evening, everyone. I'm Derek Dennis.
And I'm Farron Franzek. Now, you just listened to Chief Chris Bailey and FOP President Rick Snyder regarding that officer shooting that happened near 16th and Lafayette. That officer tonight is in stable condition. We've got team coverage for you tonight. We're going to actually start with Cody Fisher, who is outside of the scene where this all went down. Cody, what can you tell us?
Well, guys, as you just heard Chief Bailey say, there are currently 3 people in custody, including the person that they believe to be the shooter who shot the officer here at the corner of White River and Pershing. I'm going to step out of the way because we do still have an active scene here. Now, this happened just after 2 p.m. As you heard Chief Bailey describe, officers spotted a stolen vehicle. That stolen vehicle pulled into this apartment complex, and when they got here, according to police, the shooter got out and started opening fire on police. The officer fired back, striking that suspect. Now, I was able, in just the last 10 minutes, I spoke with a woman out here who described herself as family of the people who have been arrested, and she said that that person who was shot by police is right now in critical condition, which also is confirmed through Chief Bailey of IMPD. But that person who described herself as family also told me that everybody involved, in her words, should not be described as a suspect. She said her son specifically gave himself up to police, but that is just what she told us. She didn't want to go on camera. She didn't want to share her name because she was fearful that IMPD would twist her words. But as you heard from IMPD, they did track down that stolen car here to this apartment complex. That officer is currently in stable condition in the hospital. And right now out here on the scene, it is, a rather slow investigation compared to 3 or 4 hours ago when everything first happened. Initially, there was easily 20, 30 police cruisers. Now there's maybe 15. So this investigation has gone into the gathering of evidence phase. But again, IMPD also did say that they're still actively looking for a fourth person, this fourth suspect, which they do not have in custody at this time. And if we get any more updates about that fourth suspect, I'll certainly let you know, guys.
All right, Cody Fisher at the scene for us. Thank you so much. We go now to News 8's Kat Sandoval, who was at that news conference that just wrapped up with Chief Chris Bailey moments ago. Kat, Chief Bailey saying that he's happy that officer is alive tonight, but whoever's still out there, turn yourself in. What else did we learn at this news conference there, Kat?
A war zone, but then ended with a positive.
Farron, it's an absolute somber situation here. Even though that officer is in stable condition, Chief Bailey gave this statistic, or IMPD gave this statistic. Apparently, one officer is shot nationally every 26 hours. And of that, one police officer would die every 52 hours. And Chief Officer had this to say earlier today.
Today is one of the hardest days that any law enforcement agency can have when one of your officers is shot in the line of duty, doing exactly what we ask them to do every single day: run toward the danger. And it's a stark reminder of the dangers they face every single day doing a job in selfless service of our community.
I also want to add that the mayor was also here to pay his respects, to make sure that he interacted with that police officer. And even though he is in stable condition, he is still in pain. That's according to Chief Bailey. They're also doing what they can to find those bullets. That officer was shot about 3 times. And also, as Cody had mentioned earlier, there's still one suspect that had fled. Police are still looking for him. So they're urging the public to please come forward if you have any information. Sending it back to you, Farron.
All right, Kat, thank you so much.
And as we mentioned, Mayor Joe Hawk said he posted this to X shortly after the shooting, saying this: every day, the men and women of IMPD put their safety on the line to protect all of ours. Our city is fortunate to have the best police department in the country. Grateful to hear that our officer is in stable condition. We invite you to stay with Wish TV, wishtv.com for the very latest on the police shooting today on the west side of Indianapolis. We've got the latest on air and online throughout this evening.